Tolani was 7 months pregnant the day she found the house. It was small, quiet, tucked inside a compound off a dusty road in Alagbedo, Lagos. The paint was old, the gate squeaked, and the tap in the kitchen leaked a little. But it had steady lights, enough space, and, most importantly, cheap rent. Almost too cheap. Her husband Connor grinned when they toured the place. "Babe, this is perfect," he said, his hand resting on her swollen belly. "The landlord said we can even pay monthly. Where else will you see that in this Lagos?" Tolani smiled, but something inside her didn't rest. There was a strange smell in the room. Not rot. Not filth. Just like something had been kept in the dark too long. She should have asked questions. About why the last tenants left. About the scratches on the back door. About the neighbor who kept glancing at her stomach with pity. But Tolani was tired. They had been moving from one friend's house to another ever since she lost her tailoring shop and Connor got laid off. The pregnancy had drained her, and she just wanted peace. So they moved in that Friday. By Sunday, the house began to speak. It started with the dreams. The first night, Tolani saw herself in a dark room. Her hands were bloody. A baby was crying somewhere behind the wall, but no matter how hard she searched, she couldn't find the door. She woke up breathless, drenched in sweat. Connor said it was stress. "You've been worrying too much," he said. "Rest. Nothing's wrong with this place." But every night, the same dream returned, only louder. Sometimes, she would wake and swear she heard a baby crying beneath the floor. Sometimes, the power would go off for just a second, and when it came back, she would see a shadow at the corner of the room, watching. Always at 2:13 a.m. Then the kick started. Omolara began kicking violently every night, like she was warning her mother. Like she was afraid. Tolani placed her Bible under her pillow and prayed. But prayers couldn't drown the whispers coming from behind the wardrobe. One day, while sweeping the small backyard, Tolani's broom hit something hard in the soil. Curious, she dug with her hands. What she found made her skin crawl. A small band shoe. A pacifier, half melted. And an old rattle, soaked with what looked like dried blood. She screamed. Connor rushed out. Showed him. He tried to explain it away. Maybe it's from the old tenants. Kids leave things. But something broke inside Tolani that day. She knew something had happened here. Something they weren't being told. She started asking around. The woman who sold beans outside the gate, Mama Teo, pulled her aside one afternoon. "You live in that compound?" she whispered. "With that landlord?" Tolani nodded slowly. Mama Teo shook her head. "You're pregnant. And you're staying there?" "No be say I dey talk too much, but people don't carry bell in that house and come out whole. That man, and he know the age." "What do you mean?" "Go ask anybody. For over 20 years, that house dey cheap like that. People move in. Their babies don't survive past 4 months. If it's not miscarriage, it's stillbirth. Or the child dies suddenly. Always before 4 months. But you see the man. Him dey fresh. Same face. Same agboda. Same compound." Tolani felt her knees weaken. She begged Connor to leave. He refused. "Stories don't pay rent," he said. "People love blaming the devil for everything." But Tolani stopped sleeping. Every night, she heard footsteps outside the window. Her door would creak open at 2:13 a.m. even when it was locked. One night, she woke up to find ashes in her baby's clothes drawer. Another night, she heard Connor whispering in his sleep, "Give her to him, give her, give her." She called her mother. Her mother called her uncle, a pastor from Ibadan. He came with anointing oil and scriptures. The moment he stepped inside the flat, he coughed uncontrollably. His eyes watered. "There is blood in these walls," he said. "Sacrifices." He prayed, anointed the house, but before he left, he pulled Tolani aside and said quietly, "You must not give birth in this house. Promise me." Tolani nodded. On the night of her 8th month, the house changed. The mirrors cracked. Water began running on its own. And the walls, they wept. Tolani woke up to find a small handprint on her stomach, burned into her skin like a mark. She ran outside screaming. Only one neighbor came to help, Mama Ruth, an old midwife who had lived there the longest. She took Tolani inside and gave her bitter herbs. "Your child is not ordinary," she said. "That man wants her. Because she can see him. He only takes babies before they reach 4 months. Once they survive that mark, he can't touch them again." "But why?" Tolani cried. Mama Ruth looked at her. "He made a covenant. For wealth. For life. With spirits that feed on the blood of newborns. And this house is the altar." Tolani packed her bags. But when she tried to leave, the gate wouldn't open. Connor was suddenly missing. And when she turned around, she saw Baba Sola standing inside her flat, his eyes glowing faintly red. "It's almost time," he said. She ran. She hid inside Mama Ruth's room for the night. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the wind howled. The power went out. And the cries of dozens of babies filled the compound. But Mama Ruth was ready. She lit a lamp filled with consecrated oil. She began to pray. And inside Tolani's womb, Omolara kicked hard, as if fighting back. The room filled with smoke. And then, they heard a scream, not from a human throat, but something older. Deeper. When the smoke cleared, Baba Sola was gone. The next day, his body was found in the backyard, withered. His eyes wide open, staring into something that no one else could see. Tolani moved out the next morning. She gave birth safely weeks later, far away, in her mother's village. Omolara was healthy. Bright. Always staring into corners. Always laughing, even when no one was there. She was born into a war, but she survived it. But the story doesn't end there. Because months later, a real estate agent posted an ad online. Newly renovated mini flat in Adedipe. Quiet area. Cheap rent. Perfect for young families. Pay and pack in. Tolani thought it was over. After giving birth to Omolara in her mother's house, surrounded by prayers and watchful eyes, she tried to move on. She changed her number. Blocked her old landlord. Even stopped using the bucket she bought while living at number 46 Adedipe Street. But trauma has long fingers. And some houses don't let go. It started subtly. Omolara would laugh into empty space. Sometimes her tiny eyes would follow invisible figures around the room. She would babble and stretch her hand, like greeting something no one else could see. Babies do that, people said. She's just curious. But Tolani wasn't convinced. Especially not when she started hearing the lullaby again. Soft. Slow. And always at 2:13 a.m. She moved Omolara's crib into her own room. Slept with one eye open. Prayed more. Played gospel music through the night. But then came the night she went to the backyard and saw the rattle again. The same rattle she had buried back at the old house. Now lying on the wet grass. How did it get here? That same week, a stranger knocked on her gate. A woman. Pale skin. Eyes too wide. "Are you Mrs. Tolani?" she asked. Tolani froze. "Who wants to know?" "I'm here about the child. The girl. She has something inside her that doesn't belong. Something marked." Tolani slammed the gate. But that night, Omolara cried non-stop from midnight till dawn. Her little body burned with fever. Her lips blistered. When Tolani bathed her the next morning, she saw it, a faint crater-shaped mark on her back. The same mark she saw on Babasola's corpse before she fled. Panicked, Tolani rushed to Mama Ruth's new place in Ketu. The old woman took one look at the baby and sighed deeply. "You ran. But you didn't burn the altar. He may be dead, but the covenant still breathes. Until it is broken, your daughter will remain haunted." "But how?" Tolani whispered. Mama Ruth turned slowly. "You must return. Go back to that house. Find the source. Find where the first child was taken. Only then will the curse end." Tolani wept. "Why, my child? She's just a baby." Mama Ruth cupped her hand. "Exactly. That's why she's powerful. Her soul wasn't claimed. But she still carries the mark. And until you undo the origin, she'll live in its shadow." It took her a week to find the courage. She packed one bag, wore all white, took her Bible, and carried Omolara in a wrapper strapped to her back. She returned to number 46 Adedipe Street. To her surprise, the gate was wide open. But the compound had changed. The walls had fresh paint. New tenants moved in. A little girl played near the well. Music played from one flat. The new landlord, young, smiling, said, "You're looking for someone." Tolani lied. "I used to live here. I just came to collect something I forgot." He nodded. "You can check. Just be quick. That flat's empty now." She stepped inside her old room. Everything looked different, but the air was the same. Heavy. Watching. She placed Omolara on the floor, drew a circle of salt around her, and began to pray. Suddenly, the light bulb burst. The fan spun wildly. The door slammed shut. And she heard it again, the crying of dozens of babies, echoing through the walls. She followed the sound. To the backyard. To the spot she had once dug and found the baby items. This time, she dug deeper. She hit wood. A box. Inside, she found a skull the size of a mango, wrapped in blood-soaked cloth. Dozens of umbilical cords knotted around it like a crown. She dropped it and screamed. The wind howled. The earth trembled. And from behind her, a voice whispered, "You shouldn't have come back." She turned, nothing. But the skull caught fire. And as the flames rose, she saw them, the spirits of all the babies Babasola had claimed, surrounding her in silence. Then one stepped forward. A girl. Maybe 4 months old. Floating. Smiling. She touched Tolani's forehead. "Thank you for remembering us." Then they vanished. When she turned back, the skull was gone. In its place, a tiny cradle symbol burned into the earth, and then cracked open like dry clay. The curse was broken. Tolani collapsed that night. The neighbors found her by morning, unconscious, clutching Omolara tightly. She spent 3 days in the hospital. When she woke, the baby was healthy, calm, giggling again. They say the house stood quiet for months after that. The well dried up. The paint peeled off. New tenants moved in, but most left without explanation. But the compound never harmed another child. Not after Tolani faced the altar. It had been 8 months since Tolani collapsed at the sight of the altar. Omolara was crawling now. Laughing. Bright-eyed. Her health was perfect. But Tolani noticed things. Small things. Impossible things. Sometimes, Omolara would wake up before dawn, point to the corner of the room, and say in her baby voice, "Don't let her in." Sometimes she would cry and scratch the walls, always at 2:13 a.m. Sometimes she would sing the lullaby Tolani had heard in her dreams. At first, Tolani thought it was trauma. residue from everything they had survived. Until the dreams returned. This time, they weren't hers, they were Connell's. He woke one night sweating, gasping. I saw him. Boba Sola. Sitting in that same chair. He smiled and said, she's not safe yet. Tolani's hands trembled. She knew what it meant. The altar was broken, but the spirit behind it wasn't. A month later, a family moved into the compound. Young couple. 2-month-old twins. Tolani found out through a cousin who still lived nearby. They say the landlord changed. It's a new boy now. Boba Sola's nephew or something. The house looks good now. Fresh paint. Even borehole water. Tolani froze. That night, Omolara cried till morning. By the next weekend, she had packed a bag and returned to Mama Ruth. The old woman, now nearly blind, listened silently as Tolani spoke. Then she whispered, he didn't die. Not fully. The covenant moved. Into blood. Into inheritance. Who? Tolani asked. The boy. The new landlord. He is not innocent. He was chosen as the vessel. Tolani swallowed hard. So what do we do? Mama Ruth sighed. The curse will rise again if another baby dies before 4 months. The twins are at risk. You must warn them. Or stop the spirit. One last time. That night, Tolani went back to number 46 Adedipe Street, one last time. She didn't tell Connell. She didn't call the police. She just walked through the rusted gate under the full moon. The compound looked peaceful. She knocked on the new family's door. A young woman opened, surprised. Yes. Tolani didn't waste time. I lived here before. I know this sounds crazy, but your children are in danger. There's something in this house that kills babies before they turn 4 months. Please, leave. Tonight. The woman hesitated. My husband's not around. Please, Tolani begged. Just take them and go. For one night. Just go. The woman agreed. They left at midnight. At 2:13 a.m., the wind changed. The new landlord, Boba Sola's nephew, stood in the middle of the compound, chanting in a forgotten tongue. He wore red chalk on his forehead. His fingers dripped blood. From the ground beneath him, the earth groaned. He raised a knife, but before he could speak again, Tolani stepped out with Omolara in her arms. Looking for this, she shouted. The man froze. The wind howled. The trees bent backward. The entire house shook. And from the cracks in the wall, the spirits returned. Dozens of babies, burnt, crawling, wailing, emerged from the shadows and surrounded the man. One reached into his chest. Another pressed his lips shut. Omolara raised her tiny hand, and the lullaby played again. But this time, it wasn't evil. It was a lullaby of release. The man screamed. His body convulsed. Then turned to ash. The house cracked. The well collapsed. The gate tore from its hinges. And in the air, a voice whispered. It is done. Tolani collapsed, clutching Omolara tightly. She woke up 3 days later in the hospital, weak but alive. The news reported that number 46 Adedipe Street had suffered a gas explosion. No one knew the real story. But Tolani did. So did Omolara. Moral lessons. If you ever move into a house, ask questions. If the price is too good, pray. Check the walls. Check the floor. Look for what the house is hiding. Because some houses are not homes. Some houses were never meant to shelter life, only to feed on it.